Welcome to The Right Angle, the podcast that's more about the process than the perfection. I'm Abby. I'm an English ed major, fantasy and critical essay writer, and an avid reader.
And I'm Autumn. I'm also an English ed major and fantasy writer. I love building immersive worlds and complex characters.
And welcome to the first episode of The Right Angle, the podcast where we talk all things process. And today we're going to be talking about ours.
Yeah, we always hear advice like just write every day or outline everything. But honestly, process is super individual. So we wanted to share how we got into writing, how we work, and what helped us along the way.
So, why talk about process? Why does it matter? I think that the school system tends to have a one-way tracked view of the writing process, whether it's critical or creative. But the truth is, writing looks very different to everyone and very different across genres.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think a lot of times when you're in high school learning how to write, you are given a very stereotypical writing process where it's write an outline, list your bullet points, main idea, body, intro, thesis, all of these different things, not in that order, are put together to try and help people who are just starting to learn how to write. And for some people, that really works well. And for others, like me, it doesn't work well. And so I think we want to talk a little bit about our individual writing processes and how did we get into writing?
Yeah, so we're going to start by talking about our pasts with writing. The first memory I have of writing is being at my brother's YMCA flag football game, and I had a little Disney Princess notebook with me, and I just remember writing a little story about a cat in a pumpkin patch defending its territory from all the evil Halloween monsters because my family and I had just gotten back from the pumpkin patch and I saw a cat. But writing has been something that I have been drawn to since I was a little kid, ever since we started, learning that, hey, writing stories is a thing you can do. I've done it. A lot of my early projects were fairly cringy. I wrote a lot of sci-fi in my youth that was not the greatest, but, it's part of the learning process, part of learning. Wrote some fan fiction that was not great, but I think that's a kind of a hallmark of a lot of writers growing up these days. But I think I started taking writing more seriously when I entered college, and my major's English, and I added a creative writing minor, and I'm like, hey, this is something that I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I've been kind of taking it more seriously, more as like a career than just a hobby. So, how about you, Autumn?
Yeah, so I honestly don't remember when I first started writing. So I've been looking back through a lot of notebooks that I had as a child, and I found little stories and writings within there that I don't remember writing, but were very short and not complete whatsoever, but usually had some like interesting concepts. But I think one of the first like real moments where I considered writing as something you can do was a lot earlier than I think you. When I was in elementary school, I entered into our local NaNoWriMo competition.
Love NaNoWriMo.
I know, it was so much fun. And I didn't expect anything from it because I was in like third grade, I think. And I submitted this story, and as a third grader, I thought it was the greatest thing I'd ever written. I was so philosophical, and everything had meaning and depth because that's what elementary school me thought writing as a career was. And then turning it in and going through that whole process and finding out that I won.
Ooh.
Like I won our local library NaNoWriMo, and that was just a big confidence boost. And I was like, yes, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I have it down. And then I did not pick up writing for years. I did not start writing for a very, very long time until probably, I want to say middle school is when I got into writing again, but I didn't actually write. I would come up with stories in my head to help me fall asleep.
Oh my goodness. That's so real.
And that became weirdly a coping mechanism for me. And it still very much is. Whenever I'm waiting for something and I'm really, really bored, I just start going through these stories in my head, but now with a little bit more purpose to them. But I didn't start writing these stories down until I moved to Nebraska.
Hmm.
And I remember writing one, like I had a good like 30 pages done, and then I think I wrote it in Word and it all got deleted. And so I stopped for a little bit, and then I've just been writing here and there ever since. And then going into college and doing a creative writing class with you, I really started picking up writing with a bit more ferocity.
That's a good word for it. Okay, so that's how it all started. Messy Google Docs, scattered notebooks, fan fiction, all that mess. But let's fast forward a bit.
Yeah. What does writing actually look like for us now? What routines, rituals, chaos are we still getting into?
So, we're going to talk about our current writing routines or lack of. So, ideally, I want to be a daily writer. It worked really good for me this past summer, but obviously, I am a student and I am involved in many activities, so it is hard to get daily personal writing in. But when I can, I sit down in a quiet space. I try to do it outside of our dorm simply because our dorm is full of lovely, lovely, but distracting people. And I just work better when I tend to write in the fine arts building, the library, between class. I use Microsoft Word, specifically the focus mode. I really like it. It's really good. I consider myself an outliner rather than a discovery writer. So that means I like to plan out my scenes beforehand. I don't like leaving things up to chance, but I brainstorm and world build kind of as I go, but I keep a separate document full of all of that information. And as far as any rituals or weird habits, this is going to sound kind of stereotypical writery of me, but I always like to have a fun little drink next to me when I write. It just kind of keeps me motivated because it's like, oh, you bought this $8 coffee. Now you have to write. You can't let this $8 coffee go to waste.
I always know you're going on a writing sprint when you go and get Starbucks or baristas.
So how about you, Autumn?
For me, my writing currently is a little bit more scattered because I don't have a deadline pushing me to keep writing consistently. And so I write more when I feel like it as of right now, but hopefully that'll change when I have more time. But I definitely sit down, need quiet, but not too much quiet. I always like to have some sort of background noise playing, and music doesn't do it for me, weirdly. So I have to have voices of some sort playing in the background. So whether it be a movie I've seen 100 times, or a podcast, or just sitting in a library and just listening to people chat, that is what I always have to have going on in the background. But then other than that, I don't have any like flavored drinks or anything that I have to keep me going. But I usually get most of my writing done late at night because that's when I have time. And also, I'm very much a night owl. And that's when I get a lot of energy to write and to just be creative. In terms of whether or not I'm a discovery writer or an outline writer, I am weirdly both. I fall somewhere in this line of I do an outline when I need to. And I have an outline for my current project as a big overarching thing with like, need to get this done, this done, this done, this done. But like any details are left up for me to discover while I'm writing because I love knowing where I'm going, but having in the moment choices left up to chance and how I'm feeling that day or how I think the characters would act because it gives me a lot of creativity and it keeps my juices flowing. But in terms of like how I brainstorm and how I world build, I think a lot of it through in my head and I act out scenes a lot. There will be a lot of times where I don't sing in the shower. I practice dialogue in the shower and start acting out scenes while I'm washing my hair.
It's the DM in you.
It really is. Or while I'm at work, sometimes I'll find myself muttering while I'm cleaning or walking around. I'll find myself just quietly whispering character monologues or character interactions because I'm very much a dialogue heavy person. And so I need to be able to hear what the characters are saying in order to get a sense of who those characters are before I can go in and figure out what they're actually doing in the scene. And any like rituals or weird habits, I think is the fact that I have to write chronologically. That's a big
Yeah.
one that I find people get really weirded out by.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's just something that is in my mind because I think it is part of that discovery writer aspect is because I want to know what's happening beforehand before I figure out what's happening later and everything builds. And I'm not incapable of skipping time and like doing things beforehand because sometimes if I have the inspiration to do this scene that I'm not quite at, I will go and do that scene. I just kind of follow wherever the creativity flows.
That is a completely valid part of the process. So this isn't entirely in our script. As we were talking, I was thinking we should maybe give just a little bit of background on each of our big projects.
Oh yeah, we should.
Just so our listeners have some context. So Autumn mentioned something about how she doesn't have a deadline, kind of alluding to the fact that I do. So I'm currently writing a novella through our university's undergrad research fellowships. And so I'm getting mentored by a wonderful, lovely professor of ours. And that means I have deadlines, which is really great because it pushes me to write, but that's also not great because I have to get things done. Speaking of that, I am actually doing a reading of that later this week, but by the time that you guys are listening to this, said reading will already be done.
Yep.
But I have not written the chapter. I am going to read to people. So that says all you need to know about me. But just long story short, it's a fantasy novella, and it has gone through several drafts already.
Yep. One of which I got an exclusive preview of.
Oh, I know. Autumn is like the best beta reader.
I love reading your stories. They're my favorite things.
Anyway, how about yours?
My current project right now is the first book in what's going to be a fantasy trilogy.
Ooh.
And I'm very excited for it. The name is still being workshopped because I have a name, but I don't know if I love it anymore.
That's okay. Sometimes your project just kind of grows with you.
Very, very true. But other than that, what details can I give that aren't going to change?
I don't know, just like how it plays with tropes, because I think that's interesting.
Oh, yeah. So mine is the play on a real world human being getting transported into a fantasy world and dealing with that aspect and playing with a character who is not at all prepared to live in a fantasy world. Someone who is not designed for this world, who is now thrust into it and has to figure out how to survive, essentially. And also playing with, I am a bit of like a romantasy reader. I do love a romance here and there. And really playing heavy on the slow burn.
Oh, yeah. So slow.
So slow. I'm not going to reveal when the slow burn will happen, but I am going to make the readers wait for it.
Oh, I guess I forgot to give like a little bit of premise on mine. I was just like,
Yes, it's super cool. You should definitely do that.
novella. So basically, I think a similarity between our projects is we kind of subvert a lot of common fantasy tropes, but the trope I subvert is the chosen one trope. My main character is just your stereotypical chosen one, has magic powers, supposed to save the world from inevitably ending, and it starts with him getting drunk and doing other unsavory things, and the readers slowly realize, wow, this guy is an incompetent idiot and really rude to women. And then, oh no, the final battle is starting and he dies. And that's just the first scene. And in the afterlife, he meets this embodiment of fate and has to learn to grow into this role that was given to him. And he discovers stuff about his world and himself along the way. Still in progress, but yeah, clearly our project have some similarities, but our processes are very different. But let's talk about what we have been learning from all of it.
Yeah, definitely. Let's look at what's working and what's not, and the stuff that we remind ourselves when we're deep in the struggle bus.
Yeah, so my biggest writing challenge right now, I would say, is simply getting it on the page and having the time to get it on the page. A lot of my bigger blocks I've kind of gotten past, and I'm in a draft right now that I'm like really happy about where it's going, but just when I have the time to sit down because it's so infrequent, I struggle to get stuff down because I'm like, oh, what if it's not as good as this beautiful, beautiful outline I've written. But something that helps keep me going, even when it's hard, is knowing how much progress I've made on this project and hoping that it will be my first, it'll be my debut. I'm hoping to publish it. And so just the idea of like holding it bound with a pretty cover just keeps me going. Something I wish I knew earlier. I wish I knew it was okay to just write bad.
Definitely.
Like my writing process right now, I put things in brackets when I don't know what to exactly word something as. So I put whatever, Abby voice in brackets, or it's like character offends other character or something like that. And then I either come back to it or just ignore it, just leave it as a part of the finished draft because I'll always go back and change things. And some advice I guess I give myself often is it's okay to mess up and to just keep going. 'Cause honestly, as long as you're writing, you're writing.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, the biggest challenge right now is also with that trying to find time to write and writing consistently. And each time I sit down to write, not getting overwhelmed by like, I don't know what's going to come next. So therefore, can't start planning for the future and being okay with like, oh, skip this scene for now, work on the next one, and get something down on the page. I think something that helps me keep going is oddly like reading through some of my old stuff
Mm-hmm.
and getting what I have down back in my brain because that usually helps spur the creative juices. And it also gives me a bit of a confidence boost of being like, oh, see this line you wrote? That's fire. Write another one like that because you're capable. And a lot of times when I'm writing something down, I think it's really bad. And then I'll go back and look through it and my like new perspective is like, "Oh, hey, I actually kind of like this now. Good job me. Pat on the back." One thing I think I wish I would have known earlier, I think sharing your writing, even if it's still in the early stages with other people, because a lot of times they'll have some cool ideas that you would have never thought of or help you fix plot holes or just help you advance in ways that you didn't think was possible because I know that's what Abby's helped me done and I love our conversations when we talk about our works in progress
It is
because
so nice. Writing should be more of a collaborative
it
thing.
really should be because I get a lot more done when I'm just chatting.
That is so real. That's kind of how our podcast started.
It really is just us chatting in our living room or on our walks to class about writing.
Yeah, now you guys get to listen to it.
Yeah.
Any wrap up thoughts?
All writing is good writing, even if it sounds bad in the moment. That's what editing's for.
That's so real. Or even if you have to delete it later, it still was a part of that path that got you here. That's been a hard pill for me to swallow.
Yep, definitely. Seeing bad writing is hard. Knowing your writing is bad is hard.
It is,
And
but it's a part of it.
it is a part of it, and it's a part of the process. I think in class, we talk about a lot of times the idea of like a shitty first draft,
Yeah.
which is something that's been very like revolutionary for me in my writing style of not going in and editing what I've already written 100 times before I feel ready to move on. It's
Hmm.
letting that sit and just continue because in the end, you can't publish half of a good book. You gotta publish the whole thing.
That is so true. All right, so tune in to the right angle next time. We will have a guest here with us who is a music composer. So we're going to be talking about the similarities and differences between writing composition and music composition.
Mm-hmm. She's also very much an avid reader like us, and may or may not happen to be one of our roommates.
So that's it from the right angle, where we know the real story is in the process, not the product.
Until next time, write boldly, revise gently, and stay weird.